Should the St. Louis Cardinals keep Marcell Ozuna? Ozuna is a proven power hitter, and when he gets hot batting behind Paul Goldschmidt, the rest of the lineup usually follows suit. And if they bring him back, the Cards have a bunch of outfield depth they could use to pick up other prospects or pitching depth. Not to mention, he adds some serious entertainment value to the lineup. He's reaching the point of a defensive liability. His power is back this year, but he's far too inconsistent, and despite driving in 89 runs, he just isn't getting the job done with runners on. There's also potentially 11 players competing for 3 starting outfield spots, which brings us to our final point: who should they replace him with? In this year's free agent class, there really aren't any players that would be considered an improvement over Ozuna. Of all the available outfielders, he's got the most powerful swing, but I am totally down if they feel like signing Josh Donaldson or Didi Gregorius to shake up the infield. Mookie Betts is the only high-caliber outfielder that plays for a team that's willing to listen to trade offers. At least the only one I can think of. Now this may seem far-fetched, but over the past 2 off-seasons, the Cards have added their biggest bats via trade, not free agency. They've also made it a habit of trading for players on the brink of free agency and getting them to sign to long-term deals, like Matt Holliday, Paul Goldschmidt, and now possibly Marcell Ozuna. The Red Sox said they want to beef up their farm system with some prospects, and feel they may be unable to afford Betts when he hits free agency next year. However, if you look at their roster, the big thing that kept them from the postseason was an inconsistent bullpen and an unhealthy starting rotation. Now, what did the Cardinals have that they could draw from? If you guessed starting pitchers, outfielders, and infield prospects, you'd be correct. St. Louis could provide the Red Sox with some stability in their pen or in their starting rotation with a Daniel Ponce de Leon or an Austin Gomber, an arguably major league ready outfielder like Tyler O'Neill or Lane Thomas, and top prospects like Nolan Gorman or Elehuris Montero. I honestly don't see this happening though. Betts will be 28 when he's eligible to hit the free agent market next offseason, and he's expected to sign a contract similar to Bryce Harper's. Something I'm not sure the front office would be willing or capable of pulling off, and only 1 year of Betts is not worth what they would have to give up to get him. Let's go over those 11 players I mentioned before. After the worst year imaginable, Fowler bounced back to a player similar to what we saw in 2017. However, if the Cardinals want to continue their reign over the division, those numbers aren't good enough to be a starting outfielder. As great as Jose is at pinch hitting, he is much more valuable in the starting lineup. Having seen him play right field on a consistent basis, I was pleasantly surprised in his defensive ability, namely his arm. I don't think playing him in right next season will hurt the team that much, but I'm not going to go too far into this one. If you've seen any of my previous videos, you know exactly how I feel about Jose. Bader is hands down the best defensive outfielder on the roster. He has the occasional flash of offense, but does not hit consistently enough to be in the starting lineup, which is reminiscent of a certain second baseman that finally put it all together this year. Until he starts hitting, I doubt we'll see him play earlier than the 7th inning on a regular basis. O'Neill hasn't played much since his debut, and it's hard to gauge who he really is as a player. But if the Cards choose to part ways with Ozuna, he has the best chances of filling that role. Like Ozuna, he tends to strike out a lot, but makes up for it with a powerful swing. They both possess a decent amount of speed on the base paths as well. But the real separation between the two is in the outfield. In all 3 positions, O'Neill can cover more ground and has a far better arm than the former Gold Glover. Thomas reminded me a lot of Stephen Piscotty when he first got called up. Unfortunately, we still don't have any idea how he's going to do at this level, having missed the last month of the season due to a fractured wrist. From what I've seen, he shows some promise as a hitter and can be more than reliable in all 3 outfield spots. Randy dominated the minor leagues this year. In 350 at-bats, he hit 25 doubles, 4 triples, 15 home runs, stole 17 bases, drove in 53 runs, and put up a very Pujols-esque slash line. In the few major league opportunities he's been given, he's shown that he could be a legit 5-tool player. Most notably in the final series in Arizona, where he stole second, then home, gunned down Adam Jones at third from right center, and homered all in the same game. Garcia may not be re-signed this offseason, but in the event that he is, the one thing that separates Garcia from becoming a full-time outfielder in the majors is his strikeout rate. The man can run, the man can play all 3 outfield spots, and he can hit the cover off the ball. Despite all of those impressive qualities, he struck out 159 times this season in AAA. That isn't something that's going to translate well at the major league level. Williams is even less likely to come back next year, and I view him as even less likely to earn a spot in the outfield as well. Edmonton spent a little bit of time in right field this season whenever they saw fit to put Matt Carpenter in at third. I'm willing to bet that the Cards are going to give Carp every opportunity to be the starting third baseman, which many feel would force Edman out of the infield. However, I think he can get 300 to 400 at-bats next season by providing Paul DeYoung, Matt Carpenter, and Colton Wong their much-needed days off. And that doesn't even take into account the history of injuries between Carp and Wong. I'd like to not see Edman in the outfield, but as an upgrade to Jed Jerko. Munoz had even less playing time this year than he did in 2018. He may be able to compete for an outfield spot, but I believe he's going to be limited to the role Greg Garcia played, getting about 200 to 300 at-bats as a utility infielder, but he should also be able to provide depth in the outfield and serve as a third-string catcher. Of all of the outfielders in the Cardinal system, Carlson is the guy I'm betting on to become their long-term solution. He blew up last season to the point where many were calling for him to be on the playoff roster. I think he's going to get a fair shot at taking an outfield spot in spring, but I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't make a big league appearance until May or June. As much as I love Marcell Ozuna, I have seen nothing that indicates they plan on re-signing him. But all of this is speculation. The front office may surprise us with an extension, another signing, or a trade. If they decide to let Ozuna walk, I'd like to see an open competition this spring. And I mean the best 3 guys get the 3 starting spots regardless of their contract or experience. If I were to pick the starting 3 outfielders based on the information I have now, I would go with Randy Arozarena, Lane Thomas, and Tyler O'Neill, with Dylan Carlson as a 4th outfielder. We'll see though. We've got a fun offseason to watch unfold this year, and I'd say an even more fun spring. Let me know who you want starting in the outfield in the comments. Until next time, go Cards.